Hello everyone, welcome to StudyIQ. I'm Dr. Mahibal Rathod, and today we have with us the famous educationist and psychologist Dr. Jawahar Surisetti. Jawahar sir, welcome to StudyIQ.
Thank you.
Dr. Jawahar is a very eminent startup mentor. He is a motivational speaker. He is an advisor to the government of India and many other governments regarding policies on startups as well as education. And he has also authored many books and also runs a campaign called Think for India. So he's a very eminent personality that I think our younger generation can look up to for doing great things in life. So today we would like to ask him about his journey. How does he achieve what he does? What has been the path to success for him? And we will start with the basic. So where are you from? Please tell us about your beginnings, your native place. Where did you do your schooling from?
So I am from Andhra Pradesh, more precisely Visakhapatnam, and I did not go to school. So in the real sense, the life has been a school for me. Yes, I have been to a college, but school I have not been.
Oh. So today we think that going to school is very important. People try to get their kids into the best of schools. They queue up 6 months before the admission starts. And we consider, the normal society considers that schooling is of utmost importance. Then how did you figure out how to go about in life, what to study, what not to study? How did you get all the knowledge that a person gets in school? What was your secret?
So there is no secret. I believe that Sir Ken Robinson said that schools kill creativity. So my creativity is intact because I have not been to a school. But having said that, it's not by choice that I didn't go to a school. I didn't have a choice. I was selling idlis by the wayside, and my mother was not literate. So she only knew, because when we were in trouble, then the only art she knew was to make idlis. And as an 8-year-old, the only thing I could do was sell what she made. So there it all started. It was perforce, so not a matter of choice. But the learnings from this idli episode are fantastic for me. And I keep telling them without being ashamed of what I have been through. The one is that it taught me the art of thinking, for which I am known worldwide as the Think Professor. The art of thinking is something which I learned at the age of 8 that night when we had decided to open the handcart with idlis. My handcart owner, who was also my partner, his wife used to make pickles. And he said, you keep the handcart for free, don't give me a rent. But instead you sell pickles that I sell on my bicycle. So it was a barter that we had. But there were 11 handcarts in the same place. I was the 12th. So I thought, what difference do I make? And all of them were selling idlis. So I said, what is the USP that my idli will have? And that night I could not sleep. I took the plunge that I'll support the family, but I didn't know how to sell. So then what I did is, the offer that the handcart owner made to me was that for every 10 bottles sold, I would get 1 bottle, that is 10% incentive. So what I did was, out of all confidence, I withdrew the incentive in advance, that 1 bottle of pickle. Idli has 2 major qualities. And one is that idli is white across the world. Second is idli is bland across the world. So you need something to eat with it. So sambar and chutney was what the other 11 handcarts were serving. What I did was, I tried to get rid of both these characteristics of idli. So from that bottle of pickle, I took out a pinch of pickle, put it at the center of the idli, because I liked my mother's bindi. So I put it at the center. Idli ceased to remain white. It had a red dot. My idli ceased to remain white. So the first characteristic was gone. That's a yes. Idli is bland with that pickle which was tangy. Now these two characteristics of idli which the other 11 were selling. My differentiator was there. These two characteristics were missing from my idli. So my idli started selling like hotcakes. And also the pickle started selling. For those who tasted the pickle and liked it, they took it. So this is how the thinking process started. It was purely open-minded trial and error thinking that I started at the age of 8, and it was out of necessity and nothing else. Our business grew like mad. Both of us, the partners, both, we earned a good amount of money. We put up a restaurant and all that. The people who were coming to me, because 5:30 I used to start in the morning, and 11 o'clock I used to finish in the night. So it was a huge day for me. For an 8-year-old, it's a stressful day, and I could hardly sleep. That's all. And then again morning I had to start off. But the people who used to come to eat my idlis were mostly laborers. I used to sell at 25 paise for 2 idlis. They were laborers, and they used to come up with problems within their discussions that my wife ran away, my child is not going to school, I beat up my child, or what, some things like that. So this is how I got interested in psychology. So back of the mind, the interest of psychology came from here. The art of thinking came from here. Now the one that we are 5. I am the middle one. So 2 above, 2 below. And they were trying to run the family. So my mother understood that I was not going to school. So since she was illiterate, what she would do is, whatever was taught in my other brother's class, she would read that book and then again teach me that. So being illiterate, she taught me some wrong things, but that's fine. She definitely made an effort to teach me. So she became my first teacher. The second is that I had to build up a stress releasing mechanism because it was getting too much. The 5:30 to 11 o'clock schedule was too much. So what I did was, I used to go for all the movies that were released on Sundays. I used to close my shop at 12 o'clock and go for all movies, which till date I did. So that Don taught me DON, and I was not taught ABCD, but Don taught me DON. So movies taught me English. The movie posters taught me alphabets. So that's how I started learning. So I remain a movie buff even today. Sundays I go and watch all my movies. So that remains my Guru Dakshina.
Okay. So you did not go to school, but you did manage to go to college. How did that happen?
Okay. So my idli business grew, and my restaurant grew. So then the partner said, "You've struggled for Songi. So why don't we go and build a 5-star hotel? Now our restaurant is doing very brisk business. So go and do hotel management, and then when you come back, we'll open a hotel." This was the idea. And we were good enough to fund ourselves, my education further. So I gave 12th as a private and got very good marks. I gave the entrance exam for hotel management, and that was the forward integration for me. And then I went into hospitality in Kolkata. But that psychology thing was still somewhere at the back. So I simultaneously doing my graduation in psychology along with the hospitality. So when I finished my hospitality from IHM Kolkata and came, then we started building a hotel. But then my mind was still telling me, my heart was telling me, this is not where you want to be. This was, I think, not your passion. So I said, see, we've earned a lot of money, and I don't want to be in this business now. So let me pursue and keep the. So he split there, and he started building the hotel. I said, wherever you require my help, I am there with you at no cost, because we've been long partners. So I helped him build the hotel, but I pursued my psychology. And luckily, in Mumbai, in Dharavi, I used to run a school for poor children. It was not a formal school. So somebody from the UNICEF spotted me that I was doing service to these young boys and girls. and they were all praises because we used to mix what is mentioned in this national education policy today, music integrated education, sport. I used to mix music and education and teach them. So they were very happy with me. So UNICEF picked me up and said that whatever you are doing experiments, why don't you formalize it in the form of research? So they funded my research in the University of Washington, where I did my doctorate in psychology, fully funded by the UN. I pledged 19 days to UN saying that I will serve children of different countries as assigned by the UN every year in lieu of the funding that they had done. And to date, I do that. So that's how my college happened.
Okay. So I think I would like to know that how come you moved from Visakhapatnam to Mumbai to Dharavi? How did that happen? You started a school, you mentioned.
I'll tell you. Yeah. So it was not a school. It was an informal school. So I'll tell you again. So Bombay, very fantastic confidence it is. So I was in Taj in Mumbai, and those days, Subhash, if you know of ZTV, was had come Delhi to Mumbai, and he was not the owner of ZTV. So he used to come to Taj night, and I was in the hotel. So I finished my duty, and we used to strike a conversation on various issues in the country. So he took a liking to me. And then when I left the hotel industry, then he said, I am starting with ZTV. Can you join me? So I was one of the first 7 employees of ZTV. And we have a fantastic relation, Subhash Chandra and me. My part was the creative aspect of ZTV. I would create things for ZTV because it was the first private TV in India. And likewise, we did a lot of things. SL World we did, then we did SL packaging, etc. So
this must be the early.
While I was
just to place a timeline. Just to place a timeline, this would be early 90s.
This would be, yes, early 90s or late 80s, 89, 90, yes. Okay. That was the timeline. So we continued for a long period. And while I was doing very well in the entertainment industry, the UNICEF thing happened simultaneously because I was working with Z and also doing this Dharavi thing. So when I went to the US, but I was still working with Z when I was in the US because Z had opened a US office which I was handling. Subhash Chandra refused to let go. So when I did my doctorate, then I also went to various universities and thought, why should we not have satellite TV as a channel for education? So this thought came in when India was not thinking of this. So I tried to talk to some universities. They said, okay, we should do. So we started with ZCA, it was called, Z Career Academy. And we opened 3,000 centers across India so that we link various courses from universities abroad to India. This was early in the 90s. So 94, 95, something like that. We started this very early. And it did very well. Although we were very early in India to do it. Had we done it now, it would have been more successful. But any which way, I brought in that concept of satellite TV in education. And around 2000, when I had completed around 12 years with Z, I was young then. And I was not giving time to the family because coupling of Z used to happen from didn't have a satellite. So I used to work late in the night till 2:30 and then drive back home. So I somewhere wrote in one of my articles in Speaking Tree that I saw my children growing in length and not in height because they were sleeping when I went and sleeping when I came back. So that night I felt bad that I am not giving time to my children. So one fine day I left because I could not give time to my family, and then switched full time to education. Education. It happened. It so happened that when Manmohan Singh, the Prime Minister then, had gone to US, and he met Obama. So when they were exchanging things, at that time, Mr. Manmohan Singh said that we want to liberalize education in India. Can you tell us of some agency or some person who could do this for us? Then the embassy says that Obama smiled and said that an Indian is telling us how to run our charter schools. Uh, so they called me and I was introduced to Dr. Manmohan Singh. So see the irony of all of it, that since my schooling was not there and UN had referred my name to the US state, they took my services just because I was not having experience of schooling and I could create new things in the schooling segment. Whereas India came to know of me when the US president said that somebody like this is helping us, you can take him. India recognized me only when the US started talking things about me. So then I thought, because I wanted to do something for India, I could understand what the disadvantaged children are going through or dropouts are going through. So I came back to India and I started assisting governments, and from then I am advisor to government. But I strike a very good balance between the private and public agencies because both of them are important to me. Both need to grow.
Jawaharji, how did you reach to US? How did you come about to advise US from India?
Okay, so during my UNICEF-sponsored research, we had done a very big survey of 30,000 students, teachers, and stakeholders. But I kept in mind that India was also should also be one of the target recipients of the research. So we did 15,000 stakeholders in India and 15,000 in US. So the research came out so well that it was recommended for commendation by the Chancellor of the university, and the University of Washington being a public university, a commendation by the Chancellor makes it to the government. So when UNICEF referred this research to the US state, the president requested that setting up of charter schools should be handed over to someone who is innovative. So that's how I landed up in US. But I was slightly skeptical because I wanted to come back to India. But UNICEF forced me to be there and complete the project. But by the time I had completed the project, the name had spread far and wide in the US state that something new is happening in education. We did 2-3 good things. One, that it was a local school. So the infrastructure was not very great, but we wanted the children to enjoy school in the neighborhood and not go very far off. One. The second thing is we wanted the local unemployed youth to be participants in the school. So their skill sets were utilized, and it was a fantastic experience. An experience we tried to do in Teach for Raipur, where I stay, and with great results. The same experiment we did here. So this was how I landed in the US.
Okay. And that is how your journey in India also started. And today you have been advising many governments since the past decade
Yes.
and a half. So, sir, I want to ask you a relevant question for right now. Many schools, many private schools are closing down due to the lack of funds. Fees are not being paid by parents due to the COVID crisis. What do you think will be the future of private schools in India due to COVID? How will that affect the schools?
See, it's a very temporary phase. Those schools which are unable to run because of non-payment of fees, now that the various high courts have also ordered parents to pay the tuition fee and not the rest of the fees, so things are improving. But those schools which we were anyway seeing mushrooming of schools happening everywhere in India. So two things are going to happen. One, the government schools which are now also on online mode are now tasting digital education. They were reluctant earlier, piecemeal basis they were doing it, but now out of compulsion they are doing. So lots of governments have their own digital channels, they are using it. So I am seeing digitization happening to a great extent in the public and private schools both. The second is that the situation will normalize in the next, I think, 1 or 2 months. The schools have started trickling of fee coming in. So I think things will stabilize. Nothing, it's not a shake-up or anything like that happening. Yes, parents will be afraid to send the children to school, especially in the primary segment. So homeschooling is going to be big in the next 2-3 months.
So do you think that some kind of an online certification course or schools will come up as well? For example, these schools which are completely online, they provide you with certificates just like the 10th or 12th board certificate. Something like that could happen as well?
See, that's a slightly distant dream. 10th and 12th, see, there are options available which the government is still exploring. One is that you do your homeschooling in case you think, and give an exam face to face. So at the end of the 10th and at the end of 12th, if you give exams, you anyway get your certificate. So it's only you are exposed to face only during the exams and not before and after that. So certification as of now for online exams, because CBSE has made a very clear-cut mention that they are looking at online exams, but they have not found anything which has the integrity and ability to reach out to the numbers that India has as of now. So they don't want to get into that domain just because they need it right now. But yes, in the near future, you will see that. As of now, I don't see it happening.
Okay. So you have written books on parenting, and I think you are a best-selling author. Your book was a best-selling book. Do you think that COVID crisis has changed how parents interact with their children, because everybody is home since the lockdown started? A lot of time is spent at home and there's a lot more interaction between parents and children. How will that affect the relation of parents and children, because they are interacting less
Yes,
with the peers and more with the parents?
yes, that's right. This is a good case study for psychology. How I am saying. See, there are two ways. One is that the child feels stifled at home because he's got no friends, he's got no place to play outside, etc., etc. But having said that, the good point is that parents in India, especially, have a habit of not discussing finances with the children. But when in a situation of lockdown, when you are there and the parents are there and they are saying, my salary is half, I have not received payments and all that, and children tend to hear these things, they become more responsible. That my parents are going through trouble, so they become more responsible. Otherwise, children used to ask, I want this motorcycle, I want this smartphone, without taking the responsibility of whether the parent can afford it. And parent also does not talk to them and just gives them whatever they have asked for. Now is the time when children will behave more responsibly because they are exposed to it. That is one good point. The second good point is that of late parents had outsourced education to educational institutions. So they would send them to school, and when the child comes back from school, they would send them to a coaching institution or a tuition, or when he comes back, they will send them to a dance class or whatever. So the child's education was completely outsourced by parents. In this situation, they are actually feeling what is the pain of the child and the teacher and the institution and what they go through. So parents have now come back, like our parents were hands-on in our education. Now we had lost it in the last 5-6 years. It's coming back now. So that's another brighter point.
Okay. So you have been an advisor on the smart city areas, also the smart city
Yes.
project that are. But as we see right now, monsoons are there. We see news of frequent floodings taking part in city, especially in Delhi NCR region. where I stay. So what do you think is lacking with regards to the infrastructure of roads in monsoons? I want to specifically ask about the monsoon part. We see a lot of flooding happening in cities despite the smart city projects. What is lacking?
See, our misconception about what is a smart city is the basic reason. And I am very bluntly putting it, the politician does not understand what a smart city is. And that is the problem starts from there. I'll give you an example. The flooding, the drainage, the water supply, all these are parts of the municipal corporations or gram panchayats in villages. So what we are doing is in the smart city funding, if we are paid 800 crores for building up a smart city, we are putting it in things which were already the domain of the municipal corporations. So what you are doing is actually replacing a municipal corporation with the smart city project, which is not actually what it is. Smart city, when the project was brought into India, the Smart Cities Council of the world, of which I am a part, the byline is how to make the lives of people better by intervention of technology and without elimination of the human aspects of thing. This is what is smart city, not the municipal corporation work. So smart cities are supposed to be more planned. Like, for example, US is funding the smart city project of Visakhapatnam. So they have adopted Visakhapatnam. So 1,000 crores has come in. Now the CEO of Smart Cities project is the Municipal Commissioner of Visakhapatnam. So he has two roles. What he does is he has some kitty here, some kitty here. He will put money from here to do this and do, so it's not that. So underground, so there has to be internet connection for all. There has to be improved health services by, like Arogya Setu is a part of Smart City project. Or availability of health tech for improvement of health services for women and pregnant women, teenage girls, adolescent girls, old aged. So these are some criteria that we have mentioned in the Smart City project. The third is underground wiring for better planning of roads and drainages in the city. The fourth is use of technology for law and order. So cameras to be fit in and surveillance for better law. These are some things which are supposed to be maintained. Slums to be removed and habitation to be provided for people who were in the slums, good quality. So none of these are happening. We have only used the funds to make our city look better, not smart. So I think Smart City project as of now, as it stands, is not in a very good shape. The 100 cities that were announced earlier, some rankings also happened, but the misuse of funds or the use of funds in other areas due to not understanding of the smart city concept is one of the bane of the Indian politics.
Okay. So you had started an initiative called Think for India. Tell us about that. What exactly is the aim of this Think for India?
Okay. So it's very interesting. Again, it started in the US, but late in this century. So I was called for a keynote speech in Columbia University of New York, one of the Ivy League universities. And the Chancellor of Columbia University of New York was mentioning that Dr. Jawahar is a alumnus of US university system. So his research is so strong, we had to call him for a keynote in India. He was justifying why an Indian has been called to Columbia University of New York. And there were 1,300 vice chancellors in the auditorium. So he said that Indian research is mostly cut, copy, paste when compared to US research. I didn't like it. I was the only Indian there in the auditorium. So I thought I'll get back when my turn comes. So when my turn came, I asked a question. And the question is like this. That A to Z is fine if you teach in your nursery children A to Z. 1 to 9 is fine. But when you teach 10, have you taught 0? So nobody, what is this happening? So one vice chancellor tried to tell that we teach 1 to 10 because in our schools we have been taught 1 to 10. We have also been taught 1 to 10. So I said, why not 0 to 9? The second question was, we should be teaching, because when I have learnt by 10, I have not learnt by 0. So that's how it came up. And when I said that we are not thinking in our daily lives, we have stopped thinking. So if my parents have taught me 1 to 10 or my teachers have taught me 1 to 10, I also teach 1 to 10. I didn't question this. Or if my father or mother says that come to the temple or masjid or church, I will hold the hand and go. I have not questioned why should I go to the church or temple, which I think is lack of thinking. If there is an understanding of a particular concept called religion or education, we should be able to tell our children why it is there. Because today the children are logical, they will ask you questions. We were not like that. So Think for India is a movement which says that give me 5 minutes of your school time, and in the assembly I will try to activate your brain so that it starts thinking when you enter your classroom. And that is what the National Education Policy says today, that rote learning is gone. Start thinking, and the higher order thinking skills are required when you are in school. This is what they have said. And precisely this is what is Think for India. I am looking at young boys and girls to start thinking. I put in very silly questions. So one question might be who is God? So one question is that, and children so beautifully discuss this in the 5 minutes that they have, their brain starts thinking instead of just giving me the definition that their parents has given.
Okay, so that was quite a new initiative, and I think it's necessary for Indian youth to be guided properly by people such as you, so that we will stand at a place where people have not to justify that Indian researchers have come to US, and they will be proud to announce that researchers from India have come to US.
I have one point to make at this. At the end of the session, the chancellor gave me $10,000 for research on what US should teach pre-K, that is nursery, KG1, KG2, and that research was funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and is doing fantastically well. It is known as Think Curriculum, and is still in the US. So once the tenure is completed, it becomes my property. We'll use it in India. Think Curriculum was sponsored at the same program in which he started saying that Indian research is cut, copy, paste. At the end of the program, he said that an Indian will do the research. So it's a vote face.
Wow, that must have been a proud feeling, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sir, it was great interacting with you today, and we hope that we could call you over to StudyIQ sometime in the future again to discuss more of your ideas. But for today, we'll take your leave, and thank you so much for taking out the time for us today for this session.
Thank you so much.